how long have you lived in Pennsylvania?
Oh, long time. I moved here when I was 10. My father worked at Penn State University and met my wife here. We raised our two kids here. I moved away briefly, but we came right back. It sucked us back in. I live near Penn State University. We love it here.
Yeah, well, it's and one of the things that we talked about early on when we were considering this collaboration is the impact and the opportunity of doing something exciting around art and the election collectible, but really where you're at and the significance of Pennsylvania as the so-called battleground state. So battleground for sure.
They only talk about Pennsylvania once every 4 years, and then but it's nice to be important.
You wield great power. So, how many years have you been working as a professional artist?
20 years now, and probably about 10 years of that time, or closer to 7, I was working for other companies. And then for the last 13 years, I've been working independently as a freelance illustrator. So actually, the majority of my career, I've been independent then.
When you and I had our first introductory calls, getting to know each other, I mean, I reached out to you originally because your artwork speaks for itself. I mean, it's amazing. You have such a high level of detail, incredible creativity. Just your work certainly reflects your imagination, which is really cool. I think I said it's easy to compliment when it's all true, Brian. So as one thinks about being an artist and kind of getting that level to where you're at, were you always an artistic kid? I mean, were you drawing all the time? What got you into as to be an artist?
I came from a family full of artists. My uncle, my grandmother, even like my great grandfather, they were all artists. So I kind of grew up. Some families you grow up where the idea of being a professional artist is just kind of crazy talk, but like in my family, it was just something normal. So my brother and my brother Keith is also a professional artist. He works with American Greetings. Him and I used to draw just constantly, as long as I can remember. I mean, every kid does, I know that, but like we were drawing our own action figures and toys, and we would take our action figures and draw these like elaborate sets for them to play in and stuff like that, which drove my mom nuts because they actually bought us the real thing and then we wouldn't even play with it. We'd make our own. But in high school, I got very serious about art because I had an art teacher, Mr. Plackey, who really like pushed me in that direction, kind of singled me out. He encouraged me to join a contest which I won, which just little things like that just show that, okay, I have a weird style, but maybe people actually like it and I could turn this into a career. And just, I've never even considered doing anything else, honestly. I don't think I'm good at anything else, to be honest, but, you know, lucky to find the one thing.
Well, amen to that. I mean, a lot of people are, in pursuit of two things, right? What their true talent is and where their passion lies, and it seems like you found both. So, hats off to Mr. Plackey, right? So, I mean, my next question was going to be creative role models. I mean, I didn't think of asking you kind of guidance, but certainly, so your teacher had a positive influence. He kind of helped set you on, recognized your talents, set you on a path. You've got a unique style, I think. What sort of, are there other artists there that kind of inspire you?
For sure, yeah. And I want to say to my grandmother, who's now since passed, she was also a huge influence too. She's an artist in the small town of Rehoboth Beach, and everybody knows her there. She did all kinds of things. But from a very young age, she was always pushing me and my brother and encouraging artwork. In terms of artistic, one of my favorite artists is H.R. Giger, the guy who designed the alien creature design. From an early age, I was collecting his books and just sort of studying them and poring over them. from now, I follow, instead of following like big famous artists, I kind of follow more like artists that I've developed relationships with and met and talked to, and stuff like that. And I collect their artwork as well. So these aren't really artists that maybe like are household names, but like they mean something to me.
Well, kind of returning back to, you already said something about you and your brother spending a lot of time drawing when you're young. It's the old, there's a saying about putting in your 20,000 hours, right, to get good at anything, right? Whether it's an arbitrary number, but it means, you're putting in a lot of time. So you and your brother did. And my next question is one, I mean, you kind of already answered it because, you started off kind of classically trained. You're working with pencil, ink, and all the rest. But now, as we've gotten to know each other, I know that you are also a digital artist. So can you talk a little bit about kind of your process and what you work with?
Yeah, for sure. So I was trained to draw with pencil on paper and then ink on paper, usually with like dipping pens or rapidographs. But then the technology changed, I would say like around 2010-ish, where they developed monitors that you could draw on with a pen that felt like drawing for real. Up until that point, they had things that were similar, but they were just never quite there. But now that's what I use almost exclusively because as a freelancer, I have to constantly make revisions to things. I have to set things up for print, and just working digitally, it saves a ton of time. So I do still draw on paper, here and there, especially for my own personal work, and then I'll scan it in and ink it. I use a program called Clip Studio Paint. It's a dumb name, but it's a great program. It's like Photoshop, but designed for comic book illustrators. A lot of the guys who work for Marvel and DC and stuff use it, and it's fantastic. It feels just like drawing traditionally. A lot of times when people ask if I drew it by hand or if I drew it in the computer, I always say both because I am still using a pen and I am still moving my hand. So I think there's a sort of a reflex to take away from digital artists a little bit, but most of us are still drawing and most of us can still draw on paper.
Right on. Well, and just because you're using technology, right, and you're using, the digital tools, I'm glad you made that call out. I mean, it's still guided by hand. I think, a lot of people now may be thinking, oh, it's a shortcut. AI did it, which actually was one of the reasons why I reached out to you. And I told you, I really wanted an artist. I didn't want us just to think about slapping some together with AI, but really, so I think that's an important point that even though you use digital tools, it is still, you are still guiding it by hand. And I think that's what makes it pretty amazing. So next question, it kind of leads into it. I spent time looking through your portfolio online. We're gonna, post a link to that. You've got a great body of work. I know this may be the impossible question. I like to joke. It's sort of like asking you which one of your kids is your favorite. What of your work? I mean, do you have a favorite out there?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest moment for me. There are a couple, but I've been a huge Metallica fan all my life, and I recently, about 3 years ago, designed posters, one for their show in Buffalo and one for their show in Pittsburgh. And the artwork for that was projected behind them on stage. Talking about like 20 feet tall. It was just enormous. And I didn't know that was happening. I knew they were going to sell the posters, but I didn't know that. So people started sending me photos of like Metallica playing with my artwork enormous behind them. And that, I don't know, that just felt like a huge moment for me because I don't think as a kid, I just listening to Metallica, I ever would have thought that would be possible.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that's one of my favorite moments and a cool picture.
That is amazing. Yeah, and it's sad that you weren't there to see it yourself.
I think one of the shows I was on vacation, the other one I was at a convention. or something like that.
All right, so Metallica projected on stage. That's awesome. Now I do remember you told me a story about designing a team mascot. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about that?
So the thing I'm probably most known for is designing Gritty for the Philadelphia Flyers. This was now, I think, almost 6 years ago. But the Flyers reached out to me because they wanted to have a new mascot. They didn't have one previously. They had been working with another company, but I think all of the artwork that they were sending to them was like kind of too safe and too family friendly. And the Flyers found something I had done online for Chick-fil-A, which was like an angry tiger mascot. And they liked my art because it had a little bit of attitude and weirdness to it. And if you've been to Philadelphia, like Philadelphia has a little bit of attitude and weirdness to it. So anyway, just a few months before Gritty was released, they hired me to draw what he looks like. So I came up with um, tons and tons of different concepts that we went through, and we sketched back and forth until we came up with Gritty. And most people don't remember this, but on the day he came out, he was universally hated. Everybody thought he was weird and ugly, and he ended up on all the late night talk shows, and people from around the world were talking about him. He ended up being kind of a meme. But then in just like less than a week, everybody all of a sudden loved him. And I think Philadelphia started defending him as their own, and now they've adopted him. And now you can't walk through a store aisle without seeing him, or seeing him on a meme. He took on some political significance during the last election. But anyway, yeah, so that's the thing I'm most known for, and it's an awesome like icebreaker at a bar kind of a thing.
Oh, I bet. Hell of a story, Brian. I love it. From universally hated to being loved. You fought through
Yeah, it was a wild week. I spent a lot of it under my desk.
it. Well, look, you said a couple of things there that I also wanted to just kind of pull because it's a good segue for the next question, and that is you talked about weirdness. So, for your work on our election trading cards, you came up with all sorts of great ideas. I mean, in fact, we wanted to do them all. Time did not permit, but for the one that we're debuting, you referred to it as, in your initial suggestion list as giant mechs fighting. Like I really wasn't too sure what we're going to see, but the results are amazing. What inspired the design of mechs fighting?
I'm not known to be like a deep thinker. My artwork is not very deep. So all it is just a pun, a play on the "Make America Great Again," and it just change it to "Mech America Great Again." And I just thought that was funny. And I thought we wanted to draw the two of them facing off, but you can't do that in like we couldn't do that in like a violent way, of course, especially with the climate and stuff. So I think drawing them as mechs, I think was kind of a way to make it more fun and make it a bit of a fantasy to kind of avoid any actual violence. So that was part of it too. And I don't know. A lot of the stuff I draw is just because I think it's funny to me. I don't know how many people agree.
I think they'll agree when they see this. I mean, it's you definitely introduce some playfulness into an otherwise serious subject, and it looks awesome.
And that's what I like to do.
Yeah, because part of the challenge, of course, for this project was we wanted to play it down the middle, be fair and respectful to both sides, and I think you definitely captured that in this image. But what I really liked about it, and I'm excited for people to see and buy these cards, is that even if you only want to just you're only on one side, it's so cool putting the two cards together because of that portrait that's played out, and I think that's super cool. So it was a great idea, and excellent execution. So for those who don't know, what exactly is a mech?
So a mech is usually a giant robot suit that people get in. They're popular in video games and anime and manga. Elon Musk probably has his own, I'll bet. But yeah, I guess I always thought most people knew what a mech was. But there's a game called Mech Warrior, which may have made that popular, I think. But basically a big robot fighting suit that you get in and duke it out.
Iron Man style, maybe. I don't know.
It's kind of like an Iron Man suit.
But when you said Elon, of course, one thinks of Iron Man. When you're not drawing and you're going deep into the digital canvas, what do you like to do, Brian?
Well, that's a trick question because I'm always drawing. I have a scooter that I like to ride around town. That's usually what I do right after work. Because I get on the scooter and just ride around. There's lots of beautiful roads here in Pennsylvania that go along creeks and stuff. And that's an awesome thing to like get my face away from the phone and away from the screen, you know. So it's a great way to unplug. Yeah, other than that, I like to like collect and play like retro arcade games, and I built an arcade cabinet recently and stuff, so I like doing that kind of stuff. That's about it.
Nice. You lead a life that some people may only dream of, right? I mean, it seems like you get to keep the playfulness and the kid inside of you, right? I mean, you and your brother. I mean, just take it from the beginning all the way to the end. Now, you and your brother were drawing, and you're still drawing characters and cool stuff.
I know it is funny. I mean, I really am drawing kind of the same stuff that I was drawing back then. I mean, it is amazing how long I've been able to draw this out for. So yeah, I am lucky.
Final question, and of course, it is the obligatory one as representing collectibles.com. Do you collect anything?
I collect like I was saying earlier. I collect artwork from artists that I have relationships with stuff. So in the sense of collecting, as in collecting things that are valuable, probably not. But it's more like collecting things that have value to me. So in my office here and around the house, I just have artwork hung up by artists. Some of them are like band posters that artists I know have done and that kind of stuff. Silk screen posters.
You've got one thing hanging on the wall that's caught my eye the entire time: the gold weapon, the gold gun. What's the story on that one?
Yeah, that is. I bought that just at a comic book convention. Some guy was taking old Nerf guns, and then he would paint them and glue things to them to make them look like steampunk weapons. And I thought that was just so cool. So I bought that. I have a couple of them.
I would have guessed. I thought it might have been something out of the Matrix or something, but cool.
Yeah, I think probably going for like, I'm not sure. I can't remember the game or the movie, but like a steampunk style.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the work. Super excited for everyone to see what you've done, and we'll keep everyone going on what comes next. So thanks again.
Sounds great. Yeah, thanks a lot.